Hey everyone, welcome back to another Solarpunk farmer vlog. Right now we are out here on a beautiful Monday afternoon in an undisclosed location in the northern San Fernando Valley. And today out here we will be collecting some indigenous microorganisms to introduce to my resilience garden. So within the realm of regenerative agriculture, we are concerned with maintaining soil fertility by promoting a diverse array of biology within our soil. But in order to approach agriculture in such a biological fashion, we need to have good biology in our soil to begin with. And this is a fantastic place to get it. Somewhere out in nature where you have a relatively mature ecosystem that is teeming with an abundance of plant life. So as you can see, we have this beautiful stream running here. We are in a riparian zone, pretty far up in the watershed, and that means that in this location we will have plenty of large trees, whether that be evergreen trees such as coast live oaks or deciduous trees such as Pacific willow and Southern California black walnut. And these are fantastic locations to collect native strains of fungi and bacteria and other soil organisms that will benefit your garden. So our objective here is to collect a small amount of fallen leaves, tree bark, soil, just to get a decent cross-section of the soil food web that we have around here, because this is quite a functional ecosystem and we want to replicate that functionality within our own soil. So just to give you an idea of what we're looking for, so this is a piece of tree bark that has some visible fungal mycelium on it. This is probably either some kind of mold or perhaps even a fungi-like bacteria such as actinomycetes. I'm not too good at identifying these yet. This is something I am still learning, but we really just want to look for fallen leaves, little particles of soil, and pieces of twigs or tree bark that has these kinds of visible growth on them, and bag them up. It's also a good idea to take a small amount of topsoil from the location so that you could also include some of the small insects and microarthropods that inhabit that soil and introduce them into your garden. The insects and other microarthropods are essential parts of the soil food web, and you definitely want to have them in your soil because they help to facilitate nutrient cycling and uptake. Alright, so we're going to get started. Come and follow me. I have a spot picked out that looks pretty good. I will give you a couple guidelines to follow along the way just to make sure that you minimize your impact on the local ecosystem. The first guideline is make sure you don't step on any plants. As you can see here, we have some coast live oak saplings coming up, and our oak trees are very precious. We do not want to disturb the baby oak trees. So we definitely want to make sure that our precious California native oak trees are not disturbed in this process. Guideline number 2, I would say, is take less, vie on the side of taking less material, because the ecosystem here does require these fallen leaves in order to properly recycle nutrients, so we don't want to take too much. So I'm going to begin digging right here, and the third guideline I would say is when you are done, close the soil, cover the soil back up so that it's not exposed, because that could lead to erosion. And the fourth guideline is, if you already know somebody who has taken like an indigenous microorganism collection or something like that, then get it from them and don't do this. I really don't have a good source, so I'm going to be doing this myself and distributing my collections to other people who might want to have them. Alright, let's get started. I'm already seeing some really good mycelial growth in here. Check this out. This is exactly what we want. You see that growing on this fallen oak leaf right there? If you can find mycelium growing on individual leaves, that's great. So now we're just going to bag this up. But it's even better if you can find mycelial webs growing on many different leaves, forming a kind of web or mycelial colony. So and in general, you want to get a diverse array of material too, so make sure you're getting some twigs and branches. These have some mycelium growing on them as well, and you really just want to maximize the diversity of samples that you're getting. Different trees as well, and just different kinds of plants. And also, I would get a small amount of the topsoil, because the topsoil is going to contain a lot of our microarthropods as well. So we'll get some topsoil and some more leaves. Let's just look for some good samples. Oh, this is great. Yeah, see, this mycelium right here is really starting to branch out. So that is a fantastic sample. And I will say it is a bit early in the season still to be doing collections since we just got some rain. We've had a pretty dry year, but I would say that it's still a good time as any. Generally speaking, when it comes to this, you will have wanted to have had your first rains of the season already, at the very least, before you do any collections, because a lot of the biology in the soil is actually activated by the moisture, and it'll begin reproducing and proliferating when conditions are moist once again. If you don't live in a climate with a pronounced dry season like me, you really don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to keep collecting here, get a little bit more of the topsoil, and we definitely want to make sure we cover this back up. So this is going to be a really good collection. I can already see it. So there's some Pacific willow leaves under here too. Some Pacific willow leaves. I'm going to make sure to collect some Pacific willow leaves as well that have the visible mycelium. Yeah, we got some really good samples right here. Fantastic. So we're going to have an awesome collection. And basically what I'm going to do with this collection when I am done is I'm going to take it back to my worm bin and my compost pile and just pretty much put it in there. And the objective is really to just give all of these soil microorganisms and microarthropods and other forms of life from the soil that you are collecting, just give them a good environment within your own garden to grow. And they will essentially, at least in theory, grow on their own, and you will have a sort of living inoculum that you can draw from on a continuous basis. And the purpose here is really to just introduce biodiversity into my composting and vermicomposting systems at home, so that then can be added to my garden soil on an ongoing basis. Now, I will mention that you can use the natural farming method or Korean natural farming method of IMO or indigenous microorganisms collections. You might get better results that way, but I think this method of just finding some good samples to introduce to your compost or your worm farm is just fine as well. Ooh, look, we got a little, we ended up getting a little pill bug right there, or woodlouse or whatever you call them, roly-polies. They are beneficial soil organisms, absolutely. Ooh, here's a really good one. Wow, look at that. Look at that. That's some wonderful mycelium we got going there. So now I'm seeing more right here, so I'm going to keep digging right here. Yeah, this is fantastic. This is exactly what you want to find. Make sure not to touch the ground too much because I see all these ants scurrying about. I'm not sure what species they are, and I'm not sure if they sting, so... But the soil here is fantastic as well. And we want to get our garden soil to look like this, so we want this biology. Alright, let's see now. There we are. That's a fantastic one. Wow. And so these are your decomposers that will break down dead and decaying organic matter within the soil so that it can be made available to other life in the soil and your plants. You're not going to really get much mycorrhiza with this method. I mean, you might get some, like mutualistic soil organisms that partner directly with the plants. You might get some, but that's not really the focus of the collection. You just want to get everything here, and a lot of that is going to be the organisms in the soil food web that facilitate the decomposition and breakdown of organic matter. Wow. Look at this. Fantastic. This is exactly what we want. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and begin finishing up our collection. This is really all that we need. And again, you really don't want to take too much because a lot of what you're taking is essential to the ecosystem here, and you only want to take a little bit as to minimize your footprint. But this biology in this bag is incredibly valuable for regenerating your soil in your own garden and getting unproductive soil to become healthy, living, productive soil. I already have some pretty good soil in my garden that I've been improving, and this will definitely help speed up the process and help me grow even healthier plants. All right, so this is a good sample. And again, this is how you really maximize the biodiversity within the soil food web in your garden. Collect a local sample of local soil biology that is specifically adapted to the conditions that you are growing in. Adapted to your climate, adapted to your soil type, adapted to your elevation, everything. We matched this site to the resilience garden in terms of those important environmental variables, and that's why we selected it. And so now we have our sample. We are ready to take this back to the garden and introduce it to our compost and our worm farm and supercharge our soil. All right, thank you for joining me today on this Solarpunk Farmer vlog. I will see you next time.
Bonita apple bum, you gotta put me on.
Oh shoot! Rattlesnake, rattlesnake, rattlesnake. Okay. Rattlesnake, we're gone. We're going. We're done. That's nature's way of telling me it's time to go. It's a tiny baby, it was a tiny baby rattlesnake.